Peace, YouTube family. It's your boy Zay coming back at you with another video. You dig? You know how we do. We get right into it. So, this video I want to talk about the uncontrollable ego of a leader, right? Uncontrollable ego of a leader. And I've had this topic on my notes for a minute, but I've been reading this book called The Laws of Human Nature, and they speak on by Robert Greene. Highly recommend. You know, a lot of people talk about 48 Laws of Power, but I really like what he did with the laws of human nature, because instead of focusing on power, you focus more so on learning the small nuances in people and reading their micro expressions, and just be able to, gauge out certain things like narcissism and much more other things. I'm on like page 435, 436 out of 586 pages. So I'm pretty deep into the book, and it's a great book. But back to my point, he talked a lot about like a lot of leaders within the book. Gave examples about leaders in the book who kind of let their ego get the best of them, or consume them. You feel me? And one important thing I want to point out, and I've always said this as well, but one thing he didn't say was he never said to completely get rid of your ego. Never. Because any person who knows how the ego works, the ego should work as a sidekick. The ego helps you keep the identity of self. For the people who say kill your ego, then you walk around. That means you don't go by a name. You don't identify as a physical body. None of that. You should be outside standing like the trees, and just be standing there, because that's what it means to completely kill your ego. Your ego creates the self-identity that you call yourself. It's not just some cool thing to say, oh, kill your ego. No, don't kill your ego, because your ego actually helps you in a lot of these mundane, worldly, physical situations that you need. You know what I'm saying? We still live in a capitalistic world, in a world that requires you to have some self-identity in terms of pushing yourself forward to achieve the things you want to achieve. What are goals if you don't have no ego? You don't have no identity to attach yourself to any goals or visions. So that, you know what I'm saying? So it's not about killing your ego, but it's about controlling your ego. And with the uncontrollable ego of a leader, of certain leaders, their ego consumes them. So their ego becomes their face card instead of becoming a sidekick. It becomes the main character. You know what I'm saying? Your ego is only supposed to be used as an asset, and scarcely used. Using your ego as an asset too much, you know what I'm saying, leads you to being overly consumed by your ego. So with a lot of these leaders who have an uncontrollable ego, they start out real cool, real smooth to bring people in, to attract people in. So they start out real calm, real smooth. Then slowly but surely, that ego side starts to spill out. Like I said, if it's not controllable, it starts to spill out in multiple different ways, and at a fast pace, to a point to where that individual becomes a completely different person. But did they actually become a completely different person, or the mask that they were wearing, did it finally just start to come off? And with a lot of these jobs, it's a lot of bosses that is ran by a leader with an uncontrollable ego. You feel me? And a lot of these leaders who have an uncontrollable ego, they're very insecure. They can be easily intimidated by anybody who does good work or efficient work, because it makes people automatically start to measure up the two individuals, and those type of leaders don't like to be measured up against anybody, don't like to be questioned by anybody, none of that. So these leaders will come off as very narcissistic, very controlling, very demanding of others more than they're demanding of themselves. All because they feel like that's their right to be able to do that, because of their uncontrollable ego. Right? And these people are also very manipulative. They're very manipulative. They give off the persona as if they have to be like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they have to be like that, which is not the case. But they're also a people pleaser too, which is why I say they're able to reel people in, bring people in, because they're able to wear that mask. And it's many of people out here wearing a mask, bro. It's many of I'm gonna have to make a video about that. It's so many people out here wearing a mask. It's people you don't even think wearing a mask. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting out here, but at the end of the day, yeah, I've specifically made this video for anybody who is in a leadership position or see themselves possibly being in a leadership position in the future. If anybody like me, since a youngin, you were the type of person who was kind of forced to be in leadership role. Speaking for myself, I've spoke on this before on this channel, but just bringing it up again just to tie it into what I'm speaking on today. It's been plenty of times when I was growing up where I didn't want a leadership role, and I would be like catapulted in that role just because of the type of individual I was. But I say it all the time. I used to shy away and repel leadership roles because I knew what it came with. It came with accountability. It came with responsibility. It came with a type of way you have to move that others around you don't have to necessarily worry about or focus on moving like. You know what I'm saying? Because there ain't nobody eyes too much gonna be on them. But when you're the person that's being appointed as a leader or coming to a position as the leader, there's more eyes on you naturally. You feel me? That's just the role of it. So, yeah, like for anybody who's in leadership positions or roles or coming into them, this video I think will be I think not just this video, but focusing on getting control of your ego is very important, because that's something I started to do more. I've never had a ego that was just super outlandish, out of control, but it was parts of it that I wanted to hone back and like reel back in and get in control of before I started stepping into these high leadership roles that I will be stepping into in the future. You know, that's just, I'm not trying to sound right there. I'm not trying to sound egotistical, but just my path on how life is going. I know that's inevitable. Like my brother told me, just start dealing with the inevitable of your life, and that's something I just start doing. So I kind of speak like it before it even happened. But yeah, because you when you're a leader, especially of something that's of how can I put this, of great importance, or it comes with a lot of power, you have to have also empathy for the people that's around you as well. You can't be too overly consumed in you, because it's not just you that's working within that force, within that energy field of whatever that's being created. You might be the driving force, or you might be the mastermind behind it. You know, you might be the thought behind it, but sometimes the engine is the people that's around you. So if your ego is you know, pushing people away because you can't control it, and you're sinking all because you have an ego that's uncontrollable, that's no good. As a leader, that's the last thing you should be having to focus on. Something that's happening that's causing issues from within. All that should be squared away. I'm not saying you're gonna be perfect, but as a leader, you already gonna have enough issues. So you need to handle you need to handle things that you can't control as much as possible. Handle the things you can control as much as possible. Then all the things you can't control, that's when you give your attention, your energy, and your focus to that afterwards. Like, okay, I know I can't control it, but what's some ways I can mitigate these different things that are uncontrollable? But anything that's controllable, you should be working. You should be working around the clock to make sure these things are managed, because these are issues that can be solved by you without anybody else. So you want to lessen your slate, lessen your problems as much as possible, to the point to where when you get to the big problems, these big problems have all of your attention and focus. instead of it being spread out on a bunch of small nuances and little things. Another part of being a leader with an uncontrollable ego, you don't know how to delegate certain roles and positions to people. You think everything can be handled by you, and that's when your whatever you building starts to implode, because you as a person implode first, because you got so many things and so many roles you're trying to handle, to the point to where, which is also reflecting to the ones around you, that you don't trust them enough to handle these roles that you're self-delegating to yourself. And it's just like, why have these people around you if you're not gonna have them in a helping hand? Not that it's not that they aren't competent of handling it. You just think that you're the best for every job or issue that comes about, and sometimes that's not the case. Another thing with an uncontrollable ego, the uncontrollable ego of a leader, it doesn't allow them to really know and understand their strengths and weaknesses. A leader with an uncontrollable ego, that ego tells them that everything is your strength. You have no weaknesses. You can do all this shit by yourself. The leader with the ego that's in control knows that the leader who has that ego in control knows that, I have many strengths. I have many strengths, but I also have my weaknesses too. And to be able to point out those weaknesses and being able to delegate people in those positions where you are weakest at is ideal for when trying to elevate. And not to say the places where you're delegating people into those weaknesses, not to say you're not still working on those weaknesses, because you should always work on your weaknesses, but to know that there's somebody whose strength is your weakness. So why not have somebody who has that strength, who your weakness is their strength, so why not have that person in that position while you're working on that weakness? So you can not for you to take that position away from that person, but to, when you start to become stronger in that lane or field, you're able to give advice or give your input now. So now y'all working as a cohesive unit. And when you're a leader, you got to think about the collective, the over. How can I put this? Just the collective, the array of different things that go into what you're building up and what you're working on or what you're leading people towards. You feel me? As a speaker, when you are good with words, that comes with a lot of power. Being a messenger, it's a gift. I won't say it's a curse. It's a gift, and it's also a responsibility, right? Because a lot of people do migrate to your words and listen to the things you say, which also means you have to be very precise. I won't say perfect, but precise and careful. And not careful to where you scared you're gonna piss people off, but careful in a sense to where you're not speaking from a place of hatred or ill intent. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the responsibility piece come in. And all those things tie into being able to have that self-awareness and self-control, because the leader who has an uncontrollable ego, they have no self-awareness. They have no, you know what I'm saying? It's just whatever they think goes, and that's just what it is, and people should just deal with it without thinking of any ramifications that come around those certain words that are being said. Your moves should be calculative. You feel me? You don't want to just move just off of emotions. You know what I'm saying? Don't disregard your emotions when making decisions. You want to have that balance of that masculine and that feminine. People, when they hear masculine and feminine, they automatically think of gender. Masculine and feminine is much past gender. It's energy. Masculine and feminine was here before gender was even a thing. That's energy. You feel me? So you want to keep in tune with that emotion, that feminine side, but you also want to be calculative as well. You feel me? You want to dial up your decisions in your heads and play them out, in different scenarios. So just a quick little video, man. Well, not really that quick, but yeah, Don't be that leader. Don't be that leader that has an uncontrollable ego. If you find yourself in a leadership position, um, be mindful of the people that's around you. Be mindful of those time periods where you start to feel your ego start to become overbearing and start to protrude into that main character role, and that's when you take back control and put him back in that position, him or her back in that position. So yeah, that's all I got for on this video, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.